What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. This is Joannis or Joe Hatagwa. I'm a Sierra Leonean American living here in Accra, Ghana. And today I'm going to do a live. I've been doing lives now. This is the third one. I did one last week and I had a special guest on. This time I decided to do one solo. And today I'm just going to talk a little bit about what my experience has been like living here in Ghana for the last 6 months. And then also I'll leave it up to you guys to ask questions about anything Ghana related, what my life has been like here. If you have any other questions about living in West Africa, anything like that, I'll answer all your questions today. So first things first, let me just start by going through like an update on me and what it's been like being here. A lot of you, thanks, Felix. Thanks for the welcome. So it's been pretty wild. It's a wild ride. I started by moving to Sierra Leone for 2 months first. My family's from Sierra Leone, West Africa, so I was there for November and December. I got there around the 4th of November. I was there all November and all of December, and then at the end of December, I decided to make the move to Ghana. So I've been in Accra, Ghana since the end of December. I was here for a few months, and then I went back to Sierra Leone for 6 weeks to work on a building project. So I'll get into that in a little bit. But I just got back about 2 weeks ago, so I'm still readjusting and getting reacclimated with the environment here in Ghana. But it's been great so far. So I'm going to start by just answering some questions that have been coming to me from my comments on YouTube, people asking me questions on Instagram, and then those of you guys who are on the live, or if you have any questions, if you're watching this after this live gets posted on YouTube, I'll be happy to answer your questions in a future live. First things first is, as many of you know, I went vegan in July of last year. The first question is why I went vegan, for two reasons. One was for health. I had gained about 10 kilos, around 20 pounds in the pandemic. During the early days of the pandemic, I got much heavier than I had ever been, at least 15 pounds heavier than I had ever been. So that was part of it. And then the other element to it is animal cruelty and all that kind of stuff. Not gonna get too deep into that, but the factory farming system and all of that, it just wasn't for me. So I decided to go vegan. So the question that people ask me is, how am I vegan here in West Africa when in West Africa they love beef, chicken, pork, and for me, it's just been about, modifying the dishes that I have. So I have a housekeeper here at my place here in Ghana. So she makes some of the local cuisine with like brown rice instead of white rice, which is a little bit healthier with brown rice. And then also, with vegetable oil and or coconut oil, which does change the flavor of things a little bit. And then also making changes to oh, guys, let me know if you can hear me. Let me know in the comments if you can hear me. It looks like my connection is getting a little bit weak, so let me know if you can hear me. If not, I'll change over to another Wi-Fi. But yeah, so I make modifications to the meal. So when I go out to eat, I really only eat like a lot of jollof rice, a lot of vegetables. Okay, great. Thanks for letting me know you guys can hear me. Cool. I just eat what's like the healthiest options on the menu, basically. So there's a lot of vegetables. There's a lot of vegetables. So there's always like steamed vegetables or sauteed vegetables on almost every menu. I eat a lot of appetizers because the mains almost always have either fish or meat in it of some sort. And so since I don't eat it, of course, I just go with like a lot of the appetizers. People have also been asking me about my job and what I do for a living while I'm here. So my daytime job, what I do full time, is I work for Jumia or Jumia. It's an e-commerce platform. They call it the Amazon of Africa. I'm the head of advertising for Ghana. And so that means that anybody who wants to put their advertisements in front of people who visit Jumia Ghana, I am in charge of that process. I oversee kind of all of that. And there's many different elements and dimensions to that, but that's what I do as my day job. I'm also a consultant for a number of different companies as well. I won't get too deep into that. And I'm also an advisor and a mentor for startups. So I work with a couple of incubators right now. One is Mest which you guys can look it up. I'll maybe put it in the chat here. Really interesting company. They work with startups, mostly in Ghana right now. The other is Founders Institute. They're actually based in Silicon Valley and San Francisco, but they have cohorts, or not cohorts, but they have different they have the different groupings all over the world. Like there's like 4,200 different groups of these accelerators where they help companies in those local countries accelerate their businesses, get to a place where they can grow and get funding or scale. And so that's what I've been doing as my career. Obviously, I also have a YouTube channel, which I started on February 1st, and I'm around 2,100 subscribers right now. I'm looking to get to 5,000 within the next couple of months. And so I'm going to need you guys' help to pass this on to anybody you know who's thinking about moving to the continent, who is interested in seeing what life is like living here. Make sure you pass this on to them. Let them know that there is someone who is documenting every step of the way. So those are some of the questions I get. People also ask me about like how different it is here versus in the US. And I've done a couple of interviews on other people's channels, and I've talked about this a little bit. But there are just certain things here that that you have to get used to that you don't necessarily have in the West. So in the US, right, when you get your phone service or your internet service at home, in general, most of the time you buy an unlimited plan, right? So you get unlimited talk time. Your data is not necessarily unlimited, but it's almost impossible to run out of data and most data plans. And then the same thing with your home internet service. In general, it's kind of an unlimited plan, right? Here it doesn't work that way. It's a lot of times it's pay as you go, or you pay for what you use. So for instance, with my phone service, I use Vodafone as my phone carrier here. It's an international phone carrier, but the way it works here is I'm paying for a certain amount of data usage on this phone and a certain amount of minutes usage. And so you can get a bundle with data and minutes, which is what I've done. And it kind of takes me back to what I used to do when I first got my cell phone back in like 2003, where you had to buy minutes. It's the same kind of thing here. And then the same thing goes with the data. If you want to get home internet service, I have, of course, Vodafone as well at home because MTN is not in my area, or the MTN is not working in my area, unfortunately. So I have to use Vodafone. It's the same thing. So I have the plan called the Streamers plan, which is, I think is what it's called, the Streamers. Like basically it's for people who stream a lot of video and stuff like that. So they have different plans at different price points. And I have that plan based on my internet usage. So that's one of the major differences. Another difference is hot water. And that's something I wanted to update you guys on. So I moved into this apartment, a really nice apartment, 3 bedrooms, 3.5 baths. I really love the apartment, much cheaper than any apartment I've ever lived in the United States, ever in my life. I've never paid cheaper rent than here. And I have 3 bedrooms, 3.5 baths. However, they did not have hot water when I moved in. And so the water is cool, not cold, but it's cool. And so I'm going through the process of adding hot water heaters. And that is like a multi-step process. You know, they had to break out the tiles, put in new piping for the hot water. Then I just found out today that there's no electricity that can plug in to the hot water heaters. So we have to put a new electrical line in and get all that. So there's like a whole bunch of stuff that needs to be done so that I can have hot water. But if I want that amenity and I want my guests to be comfortable when people come over, I have friends who travel from, internationally who come to visit. And of course, they're used to hot water. So I need to make sure hot water is available. And so so that's one thing that is different for sure here. So I talked about phone and internet. I talked about hot water. I will say, as a single guy who's moved here, dating is pretty similar to some degree. I'm not going to get too deep into it, but in the US, the major apps that most people use, at least for dating apps, are like Bumble and Tinder. They're both available here. People use them. So those things are pretty similar. Everybody I talk to says the same thing. It's they use the same apps. Same cold approach, walking up to people, all that kind of stuff. All that stuff applies. I would just say the major difference here is that most women my age tend to already be married in West Africa because you're expected to be married at a certain age by a certain age. But that's not for everyone, and it's not all the time. But that just tends to be it. So what ends up happening on those dating apps, from everybody I've spoken to, usually find people a little younger on those dating apps. So I talked about dating, home phone service, cell phone service, home internet, cell phone, hot water, my job. All right, so that's kind of the major differences. So those are questions that come up. And so before I move on, though, there was another question. I was going to give an update, but this is a good question. And I know I'm going to butcher the name, so sorry. Only one. We'll call you only one for now. I'm sorry. But will the owner adjust the rent since you're adding a hot water tank? It's a great question. Not for me. They've thought about adjusting the rent for the next tenant. The thing is that for me, I am taking on the cost. I'm bearing most of the cost of adding the hot water, because the apartment is priced so well, and because it's all the other things about it work for me in terms of its proximity to everything. It's about 15 minutes from the airport. The manager is pretty cool. The staff that works here is cool. And there's already a history with the ownership here because a friend of mine lived here. I'm not going to be charged extra for rent, but the next tenant may be charged more because this unit will have hot water. So there is a possibility there. For instance, there is an apartment right next to me that's a 2-bedroom apartment that has hot water, and that's at the same price as this one. So it's likely that they will bump up the price when I move out. So that was one question. There was another question about, and this is from SM. What is the nightlife like? To be honest, I don't know that much because I have been working like crazy, as I mentioned, full-time job, 20-hour per week consulting gig. I work with 2 companies as an advisor and a mentor. And then I also have the YouTube channel. But when I first got here, a couple friends of mine came with me from the US, and we went to Bloom Bar, Kona, Purple Pub, Republic Bar. So there's definitely a nightlife here for sure. And there are certain places that you see a lot of diasporans, and there are certain places that you'll see a lot of locals. The nightlife is great. The music is good. Ghanaians love to dance. So like, if you're like me and you're not really a dancer like that, you kind of just like watch everybody else have a good time, or at least have dance. I mean, I'm still having fun, but everybody loves to dance here from what I've seen. So for sure, that's interesting. But the nightlife is cool. Stuff is open till pretty late. When it's open, with the pandemic, certain things are shut down, certain things are open. But the nightlife here is pretty cool. There's places that are open like all night, right? Purple Pub in Osu, it's like an outdoor area that's open like all night. The speakers are loud and crazy, but it's definitely a good time. So I hope that answers that question, SM. But yeah, the nightlife here is pretty good, especially if you come in December. The nightlife is crazy. Okay. Felix asked if I moved out of the luxury apartment. I did, Felix. Yeah. So you guys might remember I shot a couple videos at this building called Sun City. That's in Osu. And I stayed in a studio apartment there, and I also stayed in a 1-bedroom there. And so I recorded the both of the apartments that I stayed in. I did move out. It's just way too expensive to stay for an extended period of time. It's not worth it. The Wi-Fi was great there though, but like, it's just not worth the amount of money that it costs to stay there. So I decided to move on. Well, for me, let me put it this way, because I don't want to talk negatively about the place. A lot of people love it. You actually have a bar and a restaurant on the rooftop there. There's a pool up there. There's tons of amenities in the building. So, like, if you have the money to spend, a lot of diasporans stay there because it just kind of feels like the West. So by all means, stay there. But for me, it was time to move because I was looking for more of a long-term stay. And and I'm building a house in Sierra Leone, so I have to be I have to be smart with my money and budget well. And so I'm not doing the luxury apartment thing anymore. I did that in the US for far too long, much longer than I should have. And so I didn't move to Ghana to also stay in a luxury apartment building. So I did it for a month for the experience. And while I was transitioning into this apartment, but I did move out of that apartment. Great question. So there's another question from Broderick. What's the expat community like? So it's big. There are a lot of expats here. I would say there are like even WhatsApp groups for expats that go on trips together. There are some places, some nightlife places where you see a lot of expat people. I've seen that like at karaoke at Republic. I saw a lot of expat people, and I've been to Republic another time too. And you can hear by the accents. There's some people from England. There are people from the U.S., from Canada, and then there are plenty of other places too. If you go to Fat Fish, which is a brunch slash lunch. I guess it's a dinner spot too, but they have a really cool brunch on the weekends. I can't remember if it's on Saturday or Sunday, but you can see a ton of expats there. So yeah, there's a lot of expats here in Ghana for sure. I would definitely say that, especially if if that's something you're looking for, that's what you'll find. But also, you can also meet a lot of locals here as well too. SM asks, "How are the ladies?" I would say this. By trying to keep it like as respectful as possible, and of all people watching, I would say, dating in West Africa is a little different from dating in the U.S. Depending on who you are and what you're looking for. I would say for someone who's from the outside world or from the US or from somewhere else, that sometimes works to your benefit here in West Africa, especially in Ghana. And you'll find that there are a lot of people here in Ghana that are also from other places, especially on the dating apps. So, yeah, dating can be fun. And if you want to be serious, you can definitely find someone serious. Definitely different culturally from the West. Right. People tend to be a little bit more traditional here. Right. So you find that women here tend to be more traditional, although there are a lot of women in the workforce here, especially in West Africa. But they're a little bit more traditional in the sense that they tend to be more willing and open to the idea of the old school mentality, right? Where generally the man takes the lead, and then it's the gender roles type thing. So that's what you'll notice here. That's as far as I'll go with that. Feel free to send me messages and I can send you direct messages more. But at the risk of potentially generalizing, for anybody who's watching, you guys can let me know if you think I'm right or wrong, but that has been my experience thus far. Hopefully that answers your question, SM. So Broderick asked another question. For the 2-bedroom, 2-bath, what should I expect to pay if I wanted to stay within 20 minutes of the airport? Yeah, that's a good question. It depends on where. So Cantonments is an area that's very close to the airport. Very expensive though, right? I mean, I've seen prices for a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, if I'm not mistaken, it was $33,400 per month, right? Very nice apartment though. But it was not the apartment I stayed in, but I know someone who was staying there. Very, very nice apartment, but very expensive, right? I've also seen another apartment for $600 a month for a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom. And so you can see a range. I mean, it depends. Do you want furnished or unfurnished? What area of town do you want to stay in? Where I'm staying in Chateau, it's a little bit less expensive than it would be in Cantonments, which I just mentioned, right? So in Chateau, it's a little bit more inexpensive. East Legon, there's some areas there that are not as expensive, but then there are some places in East Legon that are expensive. So it really depends on what area of town, but you can find anything within any price range. So, the higher you are willing to spend, obviously, the more options you have available. I hope that answers your question, Broderick. Let me know. Oh, it looks like it did. Or it looks like I was answering one of your questions. Okay, so Felix, there are vegan restaurants, yes. So there's a restaurant called Mahogany, which I do go to as often as possible. There's one right by where I work. It's at the ANC Mall, which is not too far from the office for where Jamia's office is. There's another one actually in Cantonments as well. So I do go to both of those places, and I also order from there's a woman who has a home kitchen, and it's called Devour. That's the name of her restaurant. And so I do order from her restaurant. But the way it works, though, is that you have to order on Sunday and she delivers on Wednesday. So that's the only challenge with that. It's kind of not, it's not really on demand. It's, you have to buy in advance. And so you have to kind of think about what kind of meals do you want to eat later this week, right? Like if you're thinking, okay, I want to have vegan pizza on Thursday, then you can order on Sunday. But that's the only challenge with that. So there are vegan restaurants here. I know there are other vegan restaurants as well. But for me, it's about convenience, right? What can I get to? What's easily accessible for me from my office or from where I live, or what can I get delivered to me easily? And where I live right now, there aren't very many vegan restaurants here, right where I'm at. Felix was asking, did I go to a funeral? No, I have not gone to any funerals as of yet here in West Africa. I have gone to a Sarah. Any of you who are familiar with Islam and Islamic traditions, at least here in West Africa, I know that in Nigeria, some Muslims do this, and in Sierra Leone they do too. When someone dies, they do a sacrifice of a goat. There's some prayers, there's some handing out of food and all of that kind of stuff. So I did go to a Sarah. I haven't been to a funeral as of yet. Actually, that's a lie. Let me take that back. I did go to a funeral. Sorry, I completely neglected this. I did go to a funeral in Sierra Leone in 2009. My first time back here, my first time as an adult, I actually came for a funeral. That's what started me coming back to West Africa in the first place. Was I came for my aunt's funeral. I can't believe I missed that, but yes, I did. But it was so long ago. It was 2009, and it was the whole process was surreal. I didn't really process all of it really well because it's the first funeral that I'd ever gone to for anybody that I knew, and so there was so many things happening. It was here. It was in Sierra Leone. It was my aunt, so that was tough. But yes, I have been to one, but I haven't been to one in Ghana. It was in Sierra Leone, and it was 2009. Okay, so Asantewa, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, is asking, am I going to move to Sierra Leone after Ghana? I've heard, you've heard I'm already building a house here. You are right. Wait, okay. Yes, so I am building a house in Sierra Leone. That is correct. And we're building the boys' quarters, or what they call the caretakers' quarters. We call it boys' quarters. So yeah, eventually I do plan to move back to Sierra Leone full time. That's the ideal scenario. I'm working on generating enough opportunities for myself that it makes sense for me financially to do so. As of right now, there are more opportunities for me here and potentially also in Nigeria and maybe some other West African countries. I have some other places to explore. But yes, I am definitely going to be back in Sierra Leone as often as possible, at least once a month. As of right now, I've been back once since moving to Ghana. Like I said, I just came back a couple weeks ago, but I will be going as often as possible, likely once a month. But yeah, eventually I will be moving there full time. But the house that I'm working on, I'm building, and I'm building it with my mother. My mother is helping with building this house. She is going to actually be living in the house. So that's the first priority is getting it to a place where it's built so that she can retire and move into the house. And then I'm building a second story to rent out. And then the third story, or the penthouse, will be my unit where I will be staying. So great question. Felix said he would only spend 50 euros a month on an apartment. I get it. To each his own, right? Depending on what your budget is and what you feel comfortable in, especially if you are local. There are certain things that are just, you're going to be used to. Whereas if you're coming from somewhere internationally, there may be other things you might be used to. But yes, if you're going to spend 50 euros a month, it would not be near the airport. That's correct. All right, so Broderick's going to be DMing me directly for questions. Here's a question. Climate friendly house. Oh yeah, the building that I'm living in without having hot water. Yeah, they have incandescent light bulbs, right? So they are trying to be for sure. They're not. They don't have solar power or anything like that, and they do have a massive generator. But from what I can see, they've done their best. So here's a recommendation for Felix. I would recommend you using a Uber in Ghana and paying in cash. Yes, so I do use Uber to get around a lot, and I also use Bolt as well to get around. So yeah, I definitely use Uber and Bolt to get around as much as possible. These are all good questions and comments. Um, Here's another question, two-part questions. How do you get access to your money back in the States if you do not have a Ghanaian bank account? And would you please talk a little bit about Spintex area community? Thank you. Okay, so great questions. Number one, how do you get access to your money in your bank account? So depends on where you are. And there are different methods that work for different people. So here in Ghana, a lot of times they have POS systems, which is a point of sale system where you could just use a card to pay for something. So if you're at a restaurant, in most places that you go out to eat, you can use your card to pay for your meal. And so you can just use a debit card from your bank account in the US. It usually works. You just need to use your PIN card, your PIN code. You just need to know it and use it. So in general, that's easy. Now, if you want to access cash, there are a couple of different ways to do it, right? If you want to take out a large sum of cash, so like for instance, in Sierra Leone, it's still mostly a cash-based society, right? And so you do have to take out cash. So one thing people do is use MoneyGram or Western Union or World Remit to send yourself some money. Of those three options, I would recommend World Remit. World Remit is just has they have the least amount of fees and the conversion rate is closest to what the actual conversion rate is. I use that to send money to myself if I have to take out cash for any of the transactions I'm doing. When I'm paying for my house and on the building stuff, I have to bring cash to the contractor or to the different people, the architect and all that kind of stuff. So I just do that because in Sierra Leone, the ATMs only allow you to take out $40 at a time. And so if you have to take out $1,000, then there's no way that you can sit at that ATM, put your card in, put the amount in, it gives you your card back, then it gives you the cash, then it gives you the receipt, then you put your card back in, right? You can't do that enough, to get $1,000 out. So that's one way to do it. Here in Ghana, I actually am about to have a bank account. I didn't have one as of yet. And so I had just been using the ATM to pull out cash here in Ghana. I don't need to use cash as much here. But yeah, so that's how I've been doing it. So take out an amount that's good enough for your next week or the next however long before you plan to go back to an ATM again. But that is how I access my money. And also I can also do money transfers. So like sometimes I'll wire myself money to an account. If I need to have money in a bank account for anything, I'll do that as well. So I do have a local bank account in Sierra Leone. I'm about to have a local bank account here in Ghana. So I recommend if you're moving here or if you're going to stay here for an extended period of time, get a local bank account for two reasons. One, part of why you should be coming here is to circulate money in the economy, right? And so if you have a bank account here, you're automatically doing that. When you put money in it, you're now helping to employ folks here. And you're also circulating money in the economy, right? So you're actually doing good while you're here. So that's one. And then two, it's just easier to access your money in the country that you're in if you're going to be living in that country. So you definitely want to have a bank account and have your money easily accessible. And then if possible, be paid by a local company or a company for whatever work you're doing in that bank account. And Spintex. So I don't know a ton about Spintex. I've known 3 people who've lived in Spintex, all of which when we hang out, we're always hanging out in Osu. But Spintex has a lot of like outdoor things going on. There's a lot of interesting things going on in Spintex for sure. A lot of like outdoor like bars and stuff. There's some cool apartment buildings there too. I was looking actually at apartments in Spintex as well. And then Spintex Road is a kind of a long road. So part of it starts over by me in Shadow, and then Spintex goes all the way up beyond the airport and further up that way. So, but yeah, I would say as much as I can say, I mean, and I'd maybe defer to some of the other Ghanaians who are watching. they would probably know better than I. But Spintex, if there's somewhere you're looking, there's definitely some nice apartment buildings there, especially, well, at least one for sure that I looked at. I'll have to get the name. If you message me, you can DM me on Instagram or DM me on Instagram and remind me of the question, and I will get you the name of the building if you're interested in moving and looking at living in Spintex. So hopefully that answers your question. I don't have a lot more to say about Spintex. I don't know a bunch about it, but yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. I can try to get you some more answers. Krista, thank you very much. I'm glad you enjoy the channel. I'm glad you're watching. I'm doing this for you all, right? Obviously there are some benefits for me to having a channel, right? I mean, now that I've hit the partner program, I am getting paid by YouTube to run this channel. So they're sharing in the advertising dollars with me. But this is really for the folks who are out there in the diaspora, who are thinking about potentially moving or visiting, to know what it's like to be here. There's so many questions that I get about it. And so I just want to make sure I share that with the world. So yeah, thank you for watching and paying attention. Thanks, Krista. Felix, do I eat chocolate produced in Ghana? Great question. So, because I'm vegan, I don't eat milk chocolate. If there is chocolate that's just like cocoa and no milk involved, then I would. But I haven't had any chocolate since being in Ghana, which is crazy because if you knew me before, I love chocolate. I just don't eat chocolate anymore. But I haven't had it as of yet. Felix had another question. Is Spintex in Ghana? It is in Accra. There's a Spintex Road and a Spintex area here in Accra. And yes, I hope that the internet gets cheaper in Ghana too, Felix. You're right about that. Because, in order for me to have good enough internet, at least on my phone, I've had to pay for like one of the max plans. Victor, long time no speak, bro. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. We'll definitely have to catch up soon. I know you're a West African too, so you got to connect. Victor and I went to the same high school and played. You played football, right, Victor? Yeah. Played football. I think we played football together. I can't remember back to high school anymore. I've been out of high school for a very long time. But yes, Victor, for sure, we definitely have to connect, and you definitely need to make a trip to West Africa. I'm a big advocate for getting people out here, so you definitely got to get out here. And the question is, why did I decide to go vegan? So I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but I can talk about it again. So there was two main reasons why I went vegan. One was for health reasons. I know I just said this, but for those of you who joined late, this is going to be for you. I gained almost 15 kilos, or over 10 kilos, about 20 pounds in the early days of the pandemic. I had moved back to New York in January of last year, and I moved back in with my old roommate and his now wife. So shout out to Alex and Sarah. And so I moved in with them. And, when the pandemic hit the US, we were all really nervous about what this meant. Was there going to be a food shortage? Are we going to be in a food desert? What's going to happen, right? Because if people aren't going to go to work, that means that truck drivers aren't going to be driving, which means that food is not going to be delivered. And so we were trying to think ahead. So we were buying all of these non-perishables, right? So food that can be around for like a year or 2 years. So all the canned foods you can think of with all the sodium and all kinds of stuff in it. We were eating all of that. Well, we were hoarding all of that. We weren't eating it right away. We're eating some of it little by little. I think once we realized that the pandemic wasn't going to necessarily affect food availability, we started eating more of that food. And because we left New York City and went to Vermont, which for those of you who aren't from the US, and even if you are from the US, I don't think a lot of people know where Vermont is. It's a New England state. It's north of New York, north of New York City, east of New York State. It's up there though. Like if you were to drive west, you could drive right into Canada. So anyway, we're up there. It's cold. We're wearing sweats all the time. I didn't realize it, but I gained some pretty significant weight. And so when I came back to New York, by that time it was summertime. And, I was trying to think like, do I want to go out to Prospect Park or Central Park and, go swimming and all that kind of stuff. And I saw myself, and I did not like what I saw. I just had to make some changes, and so it started by doing a juice cleanse and a 30-day raw vegan alkaline fruits and vegetables diet for just 30 days. And then after that, I just decided to stay vegan because I felt good. I felt like I looked good, and so I just went with the lifestyle altogether. And then beyond that, I had already been thinking about it previously. I stopped eating pork a long time ago. I usually say I stopped eating pork when I was 12. I know that's the first time I was introduced to the animal that you're eating for the first time. And so I'll just leave it at that. And just seeing what I saw just made me already off pork. So stopped eating pork back then. Stopped eating beef in 2016, except once a year for a while. I was doing beef on my birthday, and I stopped doing that. And then chicken and turkey was the hardest thing, and fish were the hardest things to give up. But I did give those up in July of last year. So that is why I went vegan. Will I stay vegan forever? I don't know. I do think, because that's another question that people ask me. Being here on the continent, you have more opportunity to find food that is not factory farmed. Sometimes they do import like chicken, let's say from Europe. So in those cases, it's going to be factory farmed. But in a lot of cases, you do find, like on my property, right? My caretaker has like a chicken farm on the property right now, and so he's definitely going to eat those chickens, right? And he's eating the eggs that come from those chickens, and he's going to eat those chickens. So in those cases, I'm considering potentially getting back into maybe eating some meat if it comes from there. But I don't know yet. I don't know. I'm almost. I think in about 2 weeks I'll be a year vegan, and so we'll see how I feel after that. But yeah, those are the reasons why I went vegan. Okay. So you are visiting Ghana in August and September. So you're trying to figure out what area you might stay. Okay, good. So I'm hoping that answers your questions. Spintex is a good area to stay in. Osu is a good area. So it depends on what you're looking for. So if you're looking for like a lot of things going on, Osu is probably one of the best areas. I talk to Ghanaians, local Ghanaians a lot, and they're like, "Oh, Osu is overrated, whatever." For me, I like Osu. I like Osu a lot. I'm close proximity to Osu. It takes me 10 minutes to get there from where I am. Where I stay is very, very quiet. So there's not a lot of stuff going on where I'm at, really. There's like a little bar down the street. For the most part, though, if I want to go out, I'm in Osu or in Osu cantonments, or maybe like sometimes I go up as far as East Legon. But for the most part, I spend a lot of time in Osu. But Spintex also has a lot of nightlife as well. It seems like more of the locals hang out there from what I've seen. And so that would be the couple of places that I would recommend. Yes, visiting Cape Coast is really important. If you're coming to visit Ghana and you haven't been before, I would definitely recommend going to Cape Coast, going to the slave castles there. I think it's really impactful, especially if you're coming from the US. And your perspective generally is really only based on what happened after the enslaved Africans were brought to the United States. And so hearing what happened before is really, really interesting. And it gave me some perspective on my potential family lineage, just understanding what some people had to do to survive, and in order to not become slaves or enslaved. That's a story for another time. Definitely going to do a video about that, because it's wild to kind of hear some of those things and to think about your own lineage. My great grandmother owned a house. Great grandmother owned a house, which is the property I actually bought. And so I would imagine that would mean that she likely had to get it from one of the British colonizers. And so you can imagine what she might have had to go through for that. In any case, I for sure understand that it's really important that you go to Cape Coast and visit the slave castles. These are all good questions and comments so far. All right, so while I wait for some more questions, I'll give you some more updates on what's been going on with me. I mentioned everything that's going on with the house and with the job. I'm also in the process, like I said, of building this house in Sierra Leone. We're working on the caretaker's quarters. I got to give you guys an update on this process. So one thing I heard before, and it's one of those things that like you hear it, but you don't necessarily, it doesn't necessarily like really, it doesn't compute until it happens to you. So I had heard this before. The person you start with is not the person you end with in terms of contractors. And that is so true. So I had a contractor who is actually a second cousin of mine. Um, really like first cousins with a one of my best friends who also happens to be a cousin of mine. We went to the same boarding school. We found out in boarding school we're cousins. He he and I talked about me using this other guy, right? We used him because he's like family. I know him. He's building his own house, and he completely just dropped off the face of the earth. So he built the wall around my property for me, and then in January he just disappeared. And every once in a while, he for every like 6 messages, he'd write one back like, "Hey, yeah, I'm coming back to Sierra Leone in X amount of time. Don't worry, when I come back, everything's going to be up and running. We'll be up. The boys' quarters will be built by this time. Blah 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 blah." In the end, I had to remove on from him because he completely neglected the business, and now he's like MIA completely. It's funny because he still watches my WhatsApp stories and all of that kind of stuff, but like he's MIA. So when I went back to Sierra Leone, I had to get a new contractor, which meant that I had to go back kind of through the process, which I originally went through, where I had listed out my contractors in order from the one that I wanted the most to the one I wanted to work with the least. And by doing so, I decided to go with the group that I liked second most, which I wish I would have gone with the entire time, because honestly, it's been much better to work with them. However, one of my contractors' father is sick, and he's the primary caretaker for his father right now. And so I've gone about 3 weeks without any work done on the house because the work that's being done right now, the contractor is not going to just allow his workers to just start working on it, because it's a really pivotal piece, because it's the foundation. And just like any metaphor about any business or anybody's life or any relationship, they're always talking about how the foundation needs to be right. And so in this case, that's also important, when you're actually building a house or building the boys' quarters in this case, which is actually going to be a house for the house help. And so I actually haven't had any work done in 3 weeks on the house, and which is why I'm delaying my next trip to Sierra Leone, because I want to make sure that the foundation is mostly done before I go back, get to inspect it first and make some additional edits, modifications, things like that before I come back to Ghana again. So that has been a challenge, to say the least. Felix says, don't burn out. I'm not going to burn out. I'm here. I'm not moving back to the States. I'll be visiting the States for sure. I have dual citizenship between Sierra Leone and the U.S., so I will always be visiting back and forth. And because of my ECOWAS passport, I'll travel around West Africa. But yeah, I'm definitely going to be staying in Africa for sure. Just don't know exactly where yet. But for right now, it's Ghana. Accra is home for now. So Krista says she'd love to see the process of building a house in Sierra Leone. I'm glad you mentioned that. So I have been recording the process. I started recording the process before I knew I was going to do a YouTube channel. And so I'm just going back and looking at all of my Instagram stories and trying to stitch together like a video of what that early process looked like, getting the deed to the land, or our version of that, doing the conveyance, doing the surveillance, kicking out the tenants. Oh man, that was tough. That was crazy, but tough. That entire process. So I've documented most of that in short clips. So I'm trying to find a way to put that together into something that makes sense for YouTube. And then as of November of last year, once I started building the fence and the wall, I've also recorded that. So I know we're in July of 2021, and most of that was recorded all through like 2020, even some of it in 2019. But I do want you guys to see the process all the way through. And so I'm actually pulling together a lot of that footage right now as we speak, and grouping it together. And so I will be sending that off to my editor. I use a third-party editor for some of my edits. Some of it I do myself, but some of this stuff I'm going to have my editor do. And so they will be editing it, and I will make that available through my YouTube channel. So all of my Sierra Leone content is coming. I know it's like 2 months late, and it's coming. Bear with me, guys. I have my birthday vlog. I just turned 37. Believe it or not, I know it probably doesn't look like it, but I'm 37. So I just did my 37th birthday party in Sierra Leone. It was a great time. So I have my birthday vlog. I went to the chimpanzee sanctuary in Sierra Leone. Um, I went to the National Museum in Sierra Leone, so I learned a lot about Sierra Leone's history, a lot that I did not know, which is crazy how little I knew about our history. It's wild how little I knew. But I feel like I had a crash course, so that was good. What else did I do in Sierra Leone? Oh, I went on hikes to Mamba Falls, which is a waterfall that was recently discovered last year, I think it was, or maybe the year before. So it's uninhabited land, and it's just been recently discovered. I did another hike, a place called Sugarloaf. That was like the most dangerous hike I've ever done. I'll never do it again, but it was an experience, and I did record some of it, so I'll be sharing that with you guys too. I did a lot of interviews too. That was big for me in Sierra Leone. So you guys will get a chance to see some of the expats that moved back to Sierra Leone. So some people who, well, I shouldn't say expats, I should say repats, because these are all people of Sierra Leone descent, mostly who've moved back to Sierra Leone. So we had a bunch of my friends who are all doing a lot of amazing things in Sierra Leone. I interviewed a bunch of them. I also interviewed people who own businesses, who had been born and raised in Sierra Leone, maybe went to college in England or in the US and then moved back. So I definitely had to interview them about their experience and what it's been like, just so that other people can see there are viable options for moving back. Like, you don't have to feel like there aren't options, because there are. So I'll be doing more of that here in Ghana as well. But yeah, so you'll get a chance to see a lot of that. Any information on renting cars in Ghana or maybe getting a driver? These are great questions. Both really good questions. Both questions I don't have the answer to, but I should rent a car and just put a video up on YouTube about that here in Ghana. So, if I'm not mistaken, I'm sure one of these other YouTubers here in Ghana has done a video on renting cars. Hate to send you to someone else's channel, but yeah, just go to YouTube and type that in and see if somebody's ever shared that experience. I'm likely going to be doing that. I haven't even thought about that, but that's a great idea. But if you're used to using Uber or Bolt, you can definitely do that. And I've had an Uber driver, really cool guy. The first week that I was here, he was driving us around everywhere. We stopped ordering Bolt and Uber for a little while, and we were just using him. He would pick us up at 3 a.m. in the morning, pick us up at 6 a.m. He's driven me all the way out to Aqua Safari, which is 2 hours out, and he's pretty reasonably priced too. So, there are options. I could also give you his information, but he drives a taxi. So if you want to hire him for the day, then you'd have to hire him for the day and he can stay, or you can have him pick you up and take you somewhere and then go drive around Bolt or Uber and then come back and pick you up later. But of course, you run the risk of him not being able to come back or being available because he's on a ride or whatever. So up to you if that's what you want to do. But there are options like that. As far as the other rental car companies, I don't know. If I'm not mistaken, I think I might have saw an Avis or something here. There is definitely like some of the international car rental companies here. I just haven't used them. Good question though. Good question. Yes, thanks, Krista. Yeah, 37. Big deal. And yes, thank you for the belated birthday wishes. Yeah, it was a great time. This is actually my second time celebrating my birthday in Sierra Leone. I did it in 2019 for my 35th birthday. And then I did it again in 2021 for my 37th birthday. Okay. Is it difficult to build genuine relationships in Ghana? I don't think so. I think that's a good question though, but I don't think so. I mean, I think what it's difficult to build genuine relationships the older you get, because you're more selective about the time you spend with people, right? I'm sure it would have been even easier had I moved here when I was like 22, because I was friends with everybody when I was 22. I wasn't selective at all. right? It was just like, if you think about some of the friendships you've had when you were younger, right? And you think about some of those and you're like, why was I friends with that person, right? And then, there's always the sayings about people growing apart and all that stuff, whatever, right? You're not really thinking about long-term effects of this person being in your life. But as you get older, you do. And so I'm a little bit more selective as I get older. And so I've been able to build some friendships for sure. But, I also realized that throughout my adult life, most of my friendships revolved around partying and a ton of alcohol drinking and going out a lot. And since I don't do that as much, I realize that I don't spend as much time with my friends. So it's really about the quality of time, not the quantity of time that I'm spending with them. But I wouldn't say it's that difficult. I mean, I've made some pretty good friends here so far. I mean, I've only been here 6 months. So let's see how I feel in about a year and a half. Usually, I think it takes about 2 years to feel like you've built like lifelong friends with people. I moved from New York to Los Angeles for 4 years. And when I was in Los Angeles, it took me about a year and a half to feel like I had a good core group of friends that I felt like some of which were going to be lifelong friends. And so I would say the same is here too, for sure. But yeah, definitely. It's not too difficult, I would say, to make friends here. No, not at all. People here, especially, well, from what I've seen, Ghanaians are very welcoming, and then also there's so many people from the diaspora, so many expats, and expats are really big on having get-togethers and things to do together, and especially like events, parties, whatever, hikes, things like that. But then also like they just want to get to know other people. They're also very helpful here. Sierra Leone also has a very good community for that. I have a really, really tight knit group of friends in Sierra Leone. We've already traveled together to Ghana, which is why I ended up coming here in the first place. So we traveled here in 2019. But yeah, I would say, but you're asking about Ghana. I don't think it's too difficult. Cool. Oh, thank you, Ms. P. I'm glad you found this informative. I will be doing more of these. My plan is to go live every Tuesday. I've interviewed a few people who've had larger YouTube channels, and that's the one thing that they say to do is go live every week without fail. Just go live, and so I will do my best to go live every Tuesday. If you guys find this informative, I will do. I definitely do that. Cool. So, Eston asks, what about medical if you get sick? So, I have a primary care physician here. There's a place here. What's the name of the place? I'm going to tell you right now. Okay, Nova Surgery Center. So the doctor who founded the surgery center practiced medicine, is Ghanaian. He practiced medicine in the U.S., if I understand, for 30 years, gynecology. But he also has other doctors on staff there in this hospital. And so they have a number of different doctors for a number of different things. I went and actually got a physical the other day, got my blood work done, all that kind of stuff, just to, make sure I got a clean bill of health, all that kind of stuff, everything you normally do once a year. But yeah, I mean, I would definitely say there are medical facilities here for sure. If you have a job here, you can get insurance. If not, you can pay cash. I paid cash because my job situation is not set up yet, where my insurance is set up yet. It's a whole nother thing, but I did pay cash. It wasn't too bad. I think, I don't know, it was less than what I paid paying for insurance in the US or paying for healthcare in the US. So yeah, there's definitely a really good hospital. It came highly recommended. So yeah, there are definitely medical facilities here. Ghanaians are very well educated people, so they do have good medical facilities. At least the one that I went to, very professional. You could see all of the plaques and all of the certificates and everything that they've done, international boards of medicine and all those kinds of things, like pristine, tip-top stuff. So I missed a question or a comment. If the traffic is like Kenya or Nigeria, I wouldn't even think about driving. Yeah. So the traffic is a little crazy here, for sure. There's definitely some traffic, for sure. Yeah. Like a 15-minute ride can end up being 45 minutes to an hour. Excuse me. Also, during the December holiday, forget it. Traffic is crazy, but it's like anywhere during a major holiday time, traffic is going to be crazy. So yeah, it is what it is. Traffic is traffic. All right, cool. Um, I was going to give one more update. If there aren't any more questions, we're about 55 minutes in so far. All really, really good questions so far. I liked all the questions and comments that I've gotten from everybody so far. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything. Um, it looks like I caught every question. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. I'm also, and by the way, I'm streaming on a bunch of different platforms. I'm on YouTube and Facebook. It looks like most of the people that are on YouTube though. Okay, I am live on Facebook though, it looks like. But yeah, most of the people here are on YouTube. But yeah, so definitely if you're watching this later, and I can't imagine to be watching 50 something minutes in at a later date. But if you are, thanks for watching. Definitely ask your questions. I'll be checking the comments on the questions on these videos anyway. So I'll be answering these questions for you at a future time if you want. So here's a question. It's a very good question. Do I listen to Ghanaian artists, and do I have a favorite? So I do from time to time. I know songs more than I know artists. So there's that drill song, and I'm not even going to try to do it right now on the live. I will not do it any justice. But it's a song that sounds like Chicago drill music in the U.S. Yeah, I'm not even gonna try to do it, and I can't play it because of copyright issues. But I like the song a lot. I heard it on New Year's Day, and everybody was going nuts. And I was like, I really like this song. Shatta Wale is someone who I listen to as well. He's a little, he's a little hood, right? But he's a little wild guy. Not a little wild guy. I mean, he's a little bit wild. And I've seen some interviews with him where he goes off on people. He's definitely an interesting character, but his music is pretty good. So I do listen to it. I do listen to Afro beats. Actually, I listen to mostly Afro beats. I have an Afro beats playlist now that's like 180 songs long. And basically it has like 2 Burna Boy albums almost in their entirety. Davido, a bunch of other people. I love Afro beats. That is almost all I listen to. Besides a little Jay-Z here and there, because that's my guy. But mostly Afro beats is what I listen to. Okay, here's another question. Is Ghana airport fully open, and is the COVID test and quarantine still going on? So as of 2 weeks ago, yes, and yes on the COVID test. So COVID test, man, they're aggressive. They're aggressive. So, I was in the US and I had gotten COVID tests in the US, and it was like the little right in the front of your nose right here, nothing too big. I gotten 3 COVID tests in the US. But when I got to Ghana, man, they go in all the way in the nostril. Like they're going into your brain basically, like in there. And it's like, they have to do 5 seconds of this twisting of it. And, they'll say they're almost done, but it feels like an eternity. So I'll be honest with you, your eyes water. It is what it is. It sucks, but it's part of the process. And then they also did through the throat as well. So they did 2. They did 1 through the throat and 1 through the nose. I don't want to discourage people from coming, but I do want to tell you, I don't want you to be surprised. You need to prep yourself for it. It's going to happen. I'm going to go do it again because I'm going back to Sierra Leone in a couple weeks. And by the way, when I land in Sierra Leone, I have to do another test too. I do a test up the nose and I do a finger prick. So it just is what it is. But yes, you do have to do the COVID test. Quarantine, they recommend you quarantine at least until you get your results back. But you actually usually get your results. Actually, before you leave the airport, you have to get your results. So that I don't actually think you have to quarantine. Let me take that back, because you get your results as soon as you are walking out. You can't actually leave without your results, if I'm not mistaken. In Sierra Leone, it's a little different. From what I remember, they try to recommend you quarantine because you don't have your results back right away. For a couple of days, they'll text message you. So yeah, Um, am I planning any business ventures in Ghana? I am. I am. I definitely am. Mostly investing. Investing is the main name of the game. That's part of why I came here. So as I mentioned, I'm an advisor or mentor for two and about to be a third one. I can't say the third one yet, but I'm really excited about it. Hopefully by this time next week, I could tell you guys about the third one because it's a company you guys are all familiar with who has a venture arm here. So I'll be a mentor for their startups. But Mest and Founders Institute is where I'm getting access to startups now, and I'm advising and as much as I can. Eventually, I do plan to allocate my own personal capital, meaning giving my own money to some of these companies. But as of yet, I haven't done that. And I do plan to buy land in Ghana eventually, because real estate is the only asset that appreciates no matter what. No, let me take that back. Is one of the best assets to have. Put it that way, because I was about to say something I'm not sure of. So I'll just say one of the best assets to ever have is real estate, and so that will be one of the things that I do. Outside of that, I don't plan to have any other businesses. I do plan to start businesses back in Sierra Leone, though, for sure. I'm also like advising a couple of companies there right now. I'm actually on the board and chairman of the board actually for a startup accelerator / incubator that is going to be started in Sierra Leone. So I'll be telling you guys more about that in the coming weeks. So here's a question by KB. What's up with Salon movement? Not sure exactly what that means, but I'll be going once a month until this house is built, or once every 6 weeks or so. So I will be planning to go back as often as possible. So that would be what I can say to that. Let me take a drink of water really quickly. I've been talking for so long. All right, Celeste asked, my favorite restaurant I've been so far. That's a good question. I have to say, I think I'm going to say it's Fatfish. Because if you look at their menu, they don't have any vegan options, but the chef made a really good salad and a few other options to their brunch menu that was all vegan. And so that was really, really good. So it's expensive, but good, really good. So I like Fatfish a lot. I'll probably say that was probably my favorite restaurant I've been to so far. But in terms of like where I eat more often, Mahogany is one of those places where I eat more often. Yeah, so what do we got? Where in Ghana can you get your first COVID injection? So, as far as I understand, you can go to the same place that you can get a test. But I actually don't know because I haven't gotten my COVID vaccine. That is a very controversial topic. I'll say right now, I'm not anti-vaxxer. I'm also not necessarily the most enthusiastic about it, but I will say that there are a couple of places that you can get it. From what I understood, but I think all of that stuff is online though. If you look it up online, I'm pretty sure you can find out where you can get your COVID vaccine here in Ghana. But to be honest, I don't know the answer to that. Sorry. What about a visa on arrival? Is it working? I know it was working in 2019 when they issued 500,000 visas, if I'm not mistaken. Was it 500,000 visas? Yeah, they issued 500,000 visas in 2019. So I don't know how many of those were visas upon arrival. And I'm not sure if they're still keeping that program going. I'm a dual citizen to Sierra Leone. And so what that means is in Sierra Leone, or anywhere in West Africa, when you get your passport, you get a passport that allows you to travel anywhere in West Africa without getting a visa. So it's called ECOWAS, or Economic Community of West African States. That's what the acronym stands for. So it allows me to travel around West Africa without getting a visa. So to be honest with you, I don't know about the visa process, to be perfectly honest. But from what I understand, you can still get it upon arrival, but Google that to be sure. I would have to Google that to be 100% sure of that. Yeah. Okay. Chris, what's up? Another guy from high school whose wedding I went to a couple years ago. Well, your renewal of your vows, which was a really really good time. I had so much fun, man. And I really really miss those days of being able to hang out the way we did pre-pandemic. But Chris, what's going on, man? Thanks for showing up and checking this out. Um, so Eston asks, can I see myself retiring and spending the rest of my life here? In Africa, yes. On the continent, yes, for sure. Where exactly on the continent, I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. As of right now, I love Ghana. Sierra Leone technically is my cultural or my home, the house of my heritage and my ancestral home. So I likely see myself spending more time in Sierra Leone as time goes on. I really, really miss it even right now. And I have such a good, strong support system and family there and friends there. So I do probably see myself retiring to Sierra Leone. I just can't see myself living anywhere else, to be honest with you. And like maybe somewhere else on the continent, but on any other continent, especially by the time I get to retirement age. Now, ideally, I retire in the next 15 to 20 years. You know what I'm saying? From like full time work. But let's say I retire at the age of 65, right? By that point in time, I know Africa will be at its rightful place on the world stage, right? And so there will be no need for me to live anywhere else, right? And there isn't one for me now anyway, right? I'm already here. So at this point, I think for me, I think I'm going to retire on the continent. I'm pretty sure I am. I mean, anything can happen, but as of right now, that's what I think. Um, so fat fish is that's a great question. Okay, there's those buildings that are in the colors, the Ghana flag colors. They're the red, yellow, and green buildings. AM to PM is there. I'll have to get it, but it's a name. Shoot, and there's a hotel there, and I can't remember. Oh, it's gonna drive me crazy that I can't remember it. But Fat Fish is in that place. It's really good. There's also Sandoku. Sandoku is also a pretty good restaurant too. Sandoku is also in that same area in that location. So yeah, so I would recommend Fat Fish, and that's there. And then Mahogany, which is actually spelled a little differently. It has a Garny, I think, something like that. If I'm not mistaken, there's an R in there somewhere. I think maybe HOR or GAR. I don't know, but there's yeah. But anyway, there are a couple. So there's one at ANC Mall, and then there's another one in Cantonments. Both are really good. So those are the two that I know of. There may be more, but those are the two that I know of. You're welcome. Glad I could help, and especially for your dad. So that's good to hear. How did I get my job in Ghana? Great question. So I spent 6 months on the job search from the US. I don't want to discourage other people because really for me, I was looking to make a career change. And so I was applying for jobs that I didn't have experience doing for the most part, which is why I didn't get those jobs. Even though I had 14 years experience, I didn't have the experience, the direct experience that they were looking for. So I ended up I kind of got lucky. So I did my best to network as much as I could. A guy that I went to high school with, there's a couple of guys who went to high school with us. You guys might know him, Cordell Robin Coker. Shout out to him, by the way. He just raised $8 million for his startup, and he's based in South Africa. But he actually lived in Nigeria for a while. And when he was in Nigeria, one of his friends from Nigeria ended up being the CEO of Jumia Ghana. And there was a role that opened up where the guy who was in my predecessor, the guy who was originally in the role that I'm in, quit. And so he actually introduced me to the CEO. I got introduced to her. She forwarded my information to human resources. And then 3 months later, I was in the job. So it worked out pretty easily. It did, sometimes it's not what you know, it's who you know. But even better than that, it's who knows what you do and what you do well. Because they obviously have to be an advocate for you if they're introducing you to someone, and they have to trust that you know what you're doing. And so he had that trust to make that introduction. And after our discussion, I still had to get through an interview process, but that was how I got the job. I've also applied for other jobs. I've gotten other contracting work too. And a lot of that just came from continuously just networking. So, when I interviewed for a couple of roles that I didn't get, even though I didn't get the job, I still kept in contact with the people who I didn't get the jobs from or with. So I added them on LinkedIn, which is a smart thing to do, right? And because one of the companies I didn't get a job with, I still ended up working with them in another capacity. I made sure to mention that to them, to one, kind of remind them that, like, hey, somebody thought I was worth being a part of this organization, so I'm still working with your startups. But two, it was just to make sure that they got multiple touch points with me, and to remind them of who I am by connecting with them on LinkedIn. Your resume and a 30-minute interview can only do so much, but with LinkedIn, if you set up your LinkedIn profile correctly, which, by the way, I recommend everybody do, get recommendations from people that you've worked with, your most recent your current employer, your last employer, anybody you can get recommendations from, get endorsements. Make sure you fill out your every job that you've been in. Use videos that describe those companies if they have videos on YouTube. Like, if you go to my LinkedIn profile, you'll know what I mean. And anytime you meet with anybody career-wise, connect with them on LinkedIn, hands down. That has been really, really helpful for me, because I can say so much about myself, but other people can say it better, right? And so that has been really, really helpful for me. So I know that was a long answer to your question, but yes. Andy asks, what's the best hospital you will recommend for expat in Ghana? I did go over this a bit earlier, but I would say Nova, what's it called? Nova Surgery Center. Nova Surgery Center is where I would recommend. So they suspended visa on arrival. So this goes back to an earlier question about visa on arrival. So then I recommend you get your visa long before you come here. It's a process in the US, especially because you have to go through the United States Postal Service. And not to get too political, but under the previous presidential administration, they removed a lot of things that made it easy to mail through the USPS. So there may be some challenges getting it. So I would say, if you're planning to come like next month, expedite it so that you can get your visa, because that is going to be required in order to leave, I guess, and get here. And yes, I am 37. I know, crazy. But yeah, I am 37. I applied for my Ghanaian visa with the embassy here in the US. So there you go. Another thing about the visa. Do I ever regret quitting my old job? So for those of you who don't know, I'll start by saying what the job was. I was working at Hulu. So if any of you guys are in the US, it's mostly people in the US are familiar with it. It's a streaming service that is now fully owned and operated by Disney. Disney also has its own streaming service, Disney Plus, and they also have ESPN Plus, which are separate streaming services. But now Hulu is now under the Disney umbrella of streaming services. I worked in advertising there. I've spoken about this in a couple of interviews I've done with Vanessa Camby and some other ones, Ivy Prosper as well. So when I quit my job, it was before the pandemic hit the United States. So with hindsight, I might have waited a little longer before I quit, because remote work became a thing almost 2 months later, and I could have been able to work from New York and still work my job. Part of why I quit was because I wanted to come to New York, or I wanted to go to New York to focus on companies that were spending time in Africa and having people go back and forth. And also because it was just, I felt as if I wasn't being appreciated for the work that I was doing. And it was a confluence of a bunch of different things coming together, and just me saying, I think enough is enough, and I'm deciding to go. But do I regret it? No. But with the benefit of hindsight, I would have maybe stayed on a month or two longer, because I also ended up going through the process of applying for loans for houses in New York. And I wasn't able to get a loan for a house because I quit my job, and they were worried about my earning potential. So do I regret it? No. With hindsight, would I do some things differently? Yes. But it was probably the best decision I ever made. With all that being said, because it led to everything that is happening now. Because once I quit my job, I had the freedom to think about my future instead of spending so much time thinking about all the things that I had to do in that job that was taking up so much of my time, that wasn't allowing me to focus on advising the companies that I was working with here on the continent. So it's a long way to get around to your question, but there's the answer to that question. Oh, yes, you're welcome. Can't wait to come back to Ghana, especially Labadi Beach, Osu, and the Aburi Mountains. Being here in Toronto. Yeah. So I've been to Toronto once in January, twice in January. I don't know how you guys do it in Toronto. I don't get it. I was talking to Rochelle about this. Rochelle, I don't know Rochelle's last name, but Rochelle Vlogs. She has, a huge YouTube channel, right? So I interviewed her, and I don't know how you guys do Toronto. The Toronto thing, it's a great city, great people, beautiful people, great city, but it's so cold. And so I can imagine how much you miss it here, because the weather is great here. Even when they say it's cold, I don't think it's cold. It's perfect weather here. So yes. The pace in Ghana. It's still very slow. I've just adapted to the speed. The pace is very slow, but I've adapted to the speed. It is, yeah. I think anywhere that is a tropical environment, the speed is slow. So it's not exclusive to West Africa. It's not even exclusive to Africans. It is something that you see anywhere. You go outside of tourist towns. In general, I think anywhere in the tropics, it tends to be a little slower. Yes. Yes. Happy to share. And yeah, we need to get more people on these lives. Right now I think we got 31 people watching live. But it's still early. I just started this YouTube channel February 1st. So what is this, July 6th? So I'm still 5 months in. So I'm fairly happy with the size of the channel so far. I'm really appreciate all the support, guys. You guys helped me hit the YouTube Partner Program in 4 months. I have a couple friends that it's taken over 2 years for them to hit the YouTube Partner Program. So I did it in 4 months, thanks to the great help and the collaborations I did with some of my friends early on, the advice that they gave me, and then all of you who are watching and who have shared it with your friends and decided to hit that subscribe button. And as YOA says, smash that button, smash the like and the subscribe button. And everything does happen for a reason. That is true. So yeah, I think that goes back to me deciding to leave my job. But yeah, I'm so glad I did. It was the best decision I ever made. All right, the questions kept coming in. I like the questions. I'm going to give it a little bit more. If there are any other questions for those of you who are just joining or joined late, definitely down to answer any of your questions. If you have more questions, all you guys that are Milts, who I went to high school with, you guys have any questions for me, feel free to ask. Throw questions in the chat. I know there are a couple of you watching on Facebook. Many more of you are watching on YouTube, I see. But yeah, if you have any questions for me, for sure, let me know. Yeah. Okay, so the last thing I'll mention is what I am going to be doing next week. So next week, I want to do another Ask Me Anything. So the African James Harden, says Eric B. Okay, sure. Wow, Eric B and Rakim. Really, Eric B? Not really, Eric B. But you went all the way with Eric B. Yeah. So I'm paid in full. Big fan. It's a little before my time, but respect to those of you who don't know what we're talking about. Eric B and Rakim, DJ rapper duo. There will be no Jay-Z if there wasn't a Rakim, in my opinion, or a Nas without a Rakim. But Jay-Z's still my favorite rapper. But props to Rakim. Eric B was his DJ. Eric B for president, et cetera, et cetera. But yes. Anyway, the African James. I keep hearing the James Harden thing a lot. I'll take it. He's doing really well for himself. So I'll take the James Harden comparisons all day long, because you should have heard the other ones I used to get when I had locks. People used to say Will I Am. There's all kinds of stuff. So I'll take James Harden over Will I Am any day. So I got off tangent on that one because I saw the African James Harden and I started talking about Eric B. Um, but anyway, I'll go to the next thing that came up, and then if I remember what I was saying. So there's one question. A lot of people seem to quit their jobs and move to Africa. Were you able to get a job before? But if you hadn't got the job, would you have taken the risk and quit? So yeah, I quit my job before I had another job, but I would not recommend that for anybody else. All right, that was because I walked away with a severance package because of the circumstances in which I decided to leave the organization. And that's a whole nother conversation. But I negotiated with Human Resources a 5 month severance package, or what was equivalent to 5 month severance package. And so I had 5 month severance package, and I actually had a bunch of stuff lined up. Now, they didn't come to fruition because of COVID, because all people's marketing budgets got those were the first things that got cut. But I was able to survive with walking away with that, and then building on some of the other things that I was doing. I have my own e-commerce store, so running some of that, getting small profit there, and then other consulting gigs that I had as well. But it did come a point where I did need to get a full-time job when I got here. So for most people, I wouldn't recommend quitting your job first. For me, it was under circumstances that it made sense for me to do it, right? Like I said, I had some things lined up already. I also have 14 years experience in this particular sector of the internet. So, and with jobs being remote, there were plenty of roles that I could have potentially have gotten and done from here, right? So for me, it made the most sense for me to walk away from the job at that point in time. But I had a lot of money saved up, and I walked away with 5 month severance, right? So I wouldn't recommend that for anyone. I was also making a pretty significant amount of money while I was there, so it gave me the opportunity to be able to walk away. But that's not for everyone. Yeah, so most people, I would just tell you, make sure you have a job first, or make sure you have at least 3 solid leads. And I don't mean like a lead like I spoke to Human Resources. I mean, you're in the second and third interview, that kind of solid leads, right? Where you're about to say, I'm going to make a decision between one of these 2 or 3 companies. That would be my recommendation before leaving any job at any point in time, regardless of where you are. That's my recommendation for you, for anyone. But that's a good question. But, without great risk, there aren't great rewards either, So, I would say proceed with caution if you are going to do that. All right. We are now an hour and 22 minutes in, and I see we have more people now than ever on the chat, or actually right around the highest viewership we've had so far. So, are there any more questions from anybody out there watching on YouTube or Facebook even? I'll give it a little bit of time because I think there's a 10-second delay between when I'm speaking and when you guys can comment. So I'll give it another couple of seconds. But while I do, this is what I meant to tell you guys. So I plan to do lives every week on Tuesday night lives. And so I would love to see you guys all back here every Tuesday. In some cases, I will have special guests on, whoever is free and available, who's living on the continent and experiencing life here to give their perspective. In most cases, I'll be doing news stories, things that are popular in the news here, and sharing my opinion and having them share their opinion, and then love to hear the audience opinion on these news stories. Ghana's always making news, but it won't always be about Ghana news too. Sometimes it'll be about Sierra Leone too. If there are major things happening in Sierra Leone, I'd love to talk about that as well, being as though I'm Sierra Leonean, and I also am building a home there. And some of my subscribers are also in Sierra Leone or of Sierra Leonean descent. So I'll also be doing that as well. Okay, so that's every Tuesday. So yeah, news stories or ask me anything. And then maybe even updates too. I'll be doing updates on what's been going on with me. And oh, by the way, here's a question I'm going to pose to the group. I saw one question already about rental cars. What content do you want to see from me on my YouTube channel. Somebody asked about seeing my house being built, so that's coming. The other one was renting cars. That wasn't a specific piece of content that somebody requested, but I am going to do that content. Is there any other content that any of you guys would like to see from me? Let me know in the comments, whether that's in the live chat or in the comments below. Okay, there's another question. Okay, cool. What do you think about your prospects in West Africa? I see an opportunity to become the Walmart GM or GE of Africa. I see us become the owners of industries in West Africa. What do you think? So yes, I mean, the prospects in West Africa are basically limitless. You know, the way I see it is there's so much intellectual capital here, right? But what I don't see a lot of is access to the same resources that people in the West have. So that means mentorship. That means access to capital in terms of people investing in businesses and things like that. That is changing with time. As I mentioned, a friend of mine, a peer mentor, somebody I went to high school with, just raised $8 million for his startup in South Africa. So there's definitely the potential for that. There are pretty big companies here too, by the way. So what's his name? Dagonte. You guys know what I'm talking about. He's a billionaire in Nigeria. He has a very, very big cement business, construction business. So for sure, there's plenty of very, very big businesses here. There's a very big oil business here. I'm not a very big proponent of fossil fuels, but it's here, right? There's plenty of oil reserves. And the agriculture business is huge on the continent in a bunch of different countries. And now there's also you know, uh, like factories and things like that. So for sure, there's a lot that's going to be here. I mean, think about it. Twitter just put a headquarters in Ghana, right? Facebook and Google all have employees here, right? So I think the world is catching up. I think it's only a matter of time before a homegrown company gets to be one of these huge giant companies. I mean, Jumia technically was started, if I'm not mistaken, by Africans, but by now it's owned by Europeans and stuff like that. So I don't think it counts. But yes, for sure, I definitely think the prospects are boundless or limitless for sure. Celeste says, in terms of content, daily life vlogging, I will be doing more of that. So I'll probably do a weekly update as well. Man, YouTube is a challenge to do these videos every week. Even to do this live once a week and then do a video on Saturday takes up a lot of time and energy. But I do want to do some more vlogging. I think people want to know what your life is like weekly, and so I actually was planning to do a vlog. Believe it or not, I wrote it down on a piece of paper. Can you see it? Weekly vlog 26, week 26. So I was gonna do a weekly vlog this week, but since it came up, I am gonna do it. It's coming. It's coming. So weekly vlog will be on its way. Oh, you enjoy my travel videos, other parts of Ghana, Sierra Leone, etc. Thank you. More to come for sure. The Sierra Leone videos are definitely on their way. What part of Ghana am I in right now? Because you were born in Accra but raised here in America. Okay. I'm actually in Chado, and that's a newer area in Accra. It's behind Trade Fair. That's the best way that I can describe it. But I like it here a lot. It's pretty quiet. Uh, it's 15 minutes from the airport, 10 minutes from Osu. There's also different ways to get to East Legon because my office where I work, when I go into the office, it's in East Legon, so I can go this way or that way. That's the best way I can describe it. But I have two different ways to go. So there are ways to get around the traffic a little bit to get there a little faster. So yeah, that's what I would say. How much is reasonable or too much to buy land in Freetown, Sierra Leone? That's a great question, and I guess it depends on where in Freetown. So I bought land right outside of Freetown. I bought land in an area called Regent. But I also bought from family, so I got the family discount. But from what I understand, a plot of land can be around, what was it? Did I hear $5,000 for a plot of land now? Something like that. think it's $5,000 for a plot of land, $10,000 for a plot of land in Freetown, if I'm not mistaken. But the thing about Freetown and Sierra Leone in general, inflation moves weekly, daily, even sometimes. So it's hard to say how much it is to buy land. Once you get there and you start asking around, you'll know based on where you are. I'm working on a piece of land right now, and then later. But there are other parts of Sierra Leone, by the way, where you can get a plot of land for $400. Right? So it's not in a more densely populated area. And, if you want to sell that land later, you'd have to do it like 40 years from now for it to really be worth something. But there's definitely land for cheap all over Sierra Leone outside of Freetown if you want to buy. Specifically owning those industries. We all know Blacks, Africans don't own industries, but merely franchises. Yeah, I mean, so to answer that question though, yeah, I still think so though, right? I think if you start a company and you build a company, you can own it. I mean, I don't think you can take over like a Walmart because that's like the Walton family. So Sam Walton started a Walmart, and his wife and children, if those who are still surviving, are like part of the five richest folks out of the top like 25 richest people because they took. So that's a family-owned business. But I do think there will be homegrown companies here on the continent that will be owned. I don't know if you can take over a company from over there, but there can be homegrown companies that can be as large as those. And I do think so over time. Ivy says a friend lives in Chado. Thanks for joining, Ivy. So Ivy and I did a live 2 weeks ago. Check that out. That was really good. Oh, actually, not 2 weeks ago, like 2 months ago. It was a while ago, but it was a really good one. We talked about a couple of different things, which I thought was really good. So we talked about United Airlines opening up 3 flights. 3 flights a week. And then we also talked about Rosario Dawson saying that Ghana jollof rice is better than Nigerian jollof. Don't shoot the messenger. She's the one who said it. Okay. Thanks, Ivy, for the compliment. I appreciate it. She says she likes the live. All right. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good night. Thanks, Ivy. All right. So interview more Ghanaian university graduates that can find work. So you're a Ghanaian in the U.S. People that have moved to Ghana have different perspective than people who live in Ghana. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I think I will do that. Yeah. So interviewing. I actually live not too far from the Zenith University here in Chado. It's like right here, like not too far from me. I'm not gonna tell you exactly how far it is from me, but it's within a 5-minute radius from where I am. But yeah, so I would definitely do that. And thanks, Eric B, for telling everybody to hit that like button. All right, guys. I've tried to say goodbye a couple of times, but you guys some really good questions and comments so far. Hopefully, I've been able to answer everyone's questions to your satisfaction. Like I said, I plan to do this weekly. So come with your questions. So make sure that this ends up going like this and it's valuable for everyone. So with that, I want to say thank you to everyone who watched, everybody who was on the whole time, anybody who joined later, whatever platform you watch this on. Most of you are on YouTube, but those very few of you that are on Facebook that are watching, I appreciate it. Thanks once again, everybody. If you like this video, share it with your friends, share it with anybody who you know might be thinking about traveling to Sierra Leone or Ghana, about moving to Ghana. Make sure that they get this video so they know what's going on here and what it's like to be here as a Westerner, culturally Western person living here. And yeah, I would say if you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button, share it with your friends, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you get notified every time a video comes out. All right, guys, with that, I'm going to call it a wrap. Thanks once again for everybody for joining, and I'll see you guys all in the next video. Bye, guys.